From the News Channel 5 Network, this is OpenLine.
And that was the scene today at about 1 o'clock outside a movie theater in Antioch. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight on OpenLine. Thank you for joining us. We will be talking about the police department response. Very effective. The only person killed was the suspect himself. There were very minor injuries to patrons inside that theater, so quick police department response. Be talking with Buford Tune, retired police officer, about that. Buford, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for asking.
But before we bring in Buford and start talking about that, I want to kind of go over everything that happened today. Big day, a lot of news. Just about an hour ago, Police Chief Steve Anderson spoke to the media and wrapped up, he's still at the scene right now, wrapped up all that took place at the theater. So let's listen to what he had to say, then we'll come back and talk about it.
Shortly after 1 o'clock today, as you know, two of our officers were working a traffic accident on the street just behind me, and two citizens came running to them, telling them that there was trouble in the theater, that a person was there in a threatening manner. They immediately ran to the theater, put that information out on the radio. They were joined by a third officer. They immediately made entry. One of the officers actually engaged the suspect. There was an encounter. He saw a gun come up. He saw a trigger about to be pulled. He disengaged. The officers gathered outside, made sure that the persons inside the theater could exit safely. We're preparing to enter. The patrol officers were preparing to enter when SWAT team members arrived. So they merely secured the theater. The SWAT team started to make entry. As they were making entry, the suspect went to the back door, exhibited himself several times at the back door to the officers. When he came at them in a threatening manner, they opened fire. The suspect is deceased. Suspect is approximately 29 years old, we think. We have not actually confirmed the identity. We're working on that. What I need to say about this is because of the extraordinary work of these officers, their bravery, their training, the way they reacted, we have no major injuries to any civilian personnel. One gentleman was slightly injured. He had a cut across his shoulder from the axe that the suspect was carrying. Some of his family was pepper sprayed. Apparently that pepper spray had some sort of red dye in it. Initially we thought that it might be blood, but it turns out it was just some sort of red dye. Again, the men and women on this police department trained constantly for this. On a national level, we look at what's going on. We take cues from other police departments attending training sessions. So the tragedies in Aurora or Newtown or the Naval Yard, we have taken lessons, and our training academy works very hard to maintain a level of training so that any group of officers that show up on a particular situation are able to work as a team. Our training division personnel have actually used the old abandoned Bellevue Mall and various school buildings and various other businesses across town to practice these techniques. Again, because of the extraordinary efforts of the men and women of this police department, and especially the ones that responded to this call, we have no major injuries to anyone.
That was Metro Police Chief Steve Anderson about an hour ago, recounting everything that happened today, what happened at that theater, and going over the training that Metro police officers receive. And that's why I wanted to have you on, because retired officer, you have some idea about this, but when you heard about this today, and then you hear what happened, the outcome, just what were your thoughts? What went through your mind?
I was just glad that they were there, and they got there as soon as they did. I'm proud of the guys. They did a great job. People just don't understand the time, the effort, the expense, and the effort put forward by these men and women in blue to do what they're doing. And you can see it helped. It worked today.
You hear some of the details. He had pepper spray, an axe, and a gun. There were 2 backpacks there. When you hear those things, what about the planning that went into this? What can you decipher from that?
Well, you can tell just from his actions and what he was carrying that this was a planned attack, and he had probably been in this theater before to scope it out to see who, what, and where, and which way to go. Probably more than once. When you get somebody carrying this stuff, it was not a random hit. It was something that he had planned out to do. It could have been that he was planning suicide by cop, which is the way it turned out. We don't know, and I'm sure when the investigation keeps going, they're going to be looking at computers, emails, websites, talking to family, friends, and everything, and putting pieces together to kind of see what he was thinking.
The response on the part of the officers. So apparently there were 2 people that found officers who were working a wreck nearby, and that is one reason officers got there so quickly.
Correct.
How critical do you think that was?
Oh, that was very critical. The first officer on the scene is the one who's going to be charging in. They're going to be going in, putting out the call for the backup to get there. The first officer there is the one who's got to take out that threat if it's any way possible, and that's what they tried to do. Luckily, the SWAT team was there fast, better equipped than the street officers are and so forth, could be able to walk in and take control.
So you're the first officer, you're working a wreck, all of a sudden someone says there's this situation in a movie theater, a gunman, pepper spray, someone with an axe. There's no time to call for backup, right? I mean, what is the training? He didn't. You don't have time to call for backup. Do you just run straight in that building?
Well, you call for backup. Let them know what's going on.
You don't wait.
No, you don't wait. You call, but you don't wait.
You run in that building.
Correct. You have to assess the situation. You know, you don't go running into the firefight without assessing it for certain seconds. And that's how long you've got is seconds to assess the situation before you go in. And apparently that's what they did, from what I understand, is when they entered the front, they assessed the situation, started trying to get people out, and then one of the officers confronted him.
The chief talked about the training. Certainly they're aware of national events, they're aware of shootings in schools, shootings in other theaters. What sort of training? And he mentioned they trained at Bellevue, the old Bellevue Mall.
Mm-hmm.
How does that look? What sort of training are we talking about? How long is it? What do you know about the kind of training they're doing?
It's continuous training. It's not really how long it is. It's just whenever they have the opportunity. You know, when I was on the police department, the tactical division, we trained with the bomb squad. We would train at least 1 day a week, and we would learn from the mistakes and from other incidents that happen. So you would take all the other shooters, all the other bombings and stuff like this, and we'd sit and look at the Boston bomber. We would look at the movie theaters. We would look at everything. We would look at the National Guard. We looked at the military bases. What did these people do? What could we do to make it easier for us to go in and take control? We learned from the mistakes, and we learned from the good actions of other officers and other agencies that goes in. And you just put it all together.
There was a time, I feel like, and maybe my knowledge comes from movies, but it seems like there was a time that the training would have been, if there's a situation like that, you call and you wait for backup.
Right.
With what we've seen in the world now, is that out the window?
Oh yeah, after Columbine, the school shooting out there, when you had the officers that waited, that's when all the criticism started. There was an avalanche of criticism. You do something, do something, do something, do something. Well, if you don't have the training, and I mean, Metro even trains their patrol officers to respond like this, to conceal, to control the situation and contain it and everything, and then wait for the backup to go in and overwhelm whatever they have to do. But when you look at a situation like happened in Columbine out there, the officers were not trained. The patrol officers show up, there's a shooting, okay, well, what do? I don't know what to do. So we sit there and wait for people to come tell us what to do. So now police departments everywhere are trained that if this happens, you go in and you do what you got to do.
And it looks like he went up to the projection room first and reviewed the whole. Maybe that's because it's the highest angle. Do you have any reason why he went in that sort of progression, or what about that?
Other than just to maybe be able to see the overall theater itself is the only thing I have no idea.
And one other thing, before you go to break and start taking calls, they said there was red in the pepper spray. They thought it might be blood, but it was just red dye. Why would there be? Is that normal?
Well, some pepper sprays do have dye in it to identify the person that you sprayed, and some pepper sprays are red to start with. Is, you know, if they have the reddish orange tint to it, so that you can see it. It's not necessarily a dye; it's just the pepper spray alone. So there's all kinds of different brands and mixtures of pepper spray there is out there.
All right. We are going to take a break. Then we have a bunch of calls. We will go through and we'll just start taking your calls. Any question you may have. Take a break. Be back right after this.